Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Today, we are speaking with Dr. Jairo Borja. Jairo is the president of Borja Consulting Group. He is a master networker, and we're going to be talking about that
That's
today.
cool.
International best-selling author, speaker, course creator, and real estate investor. Jairo, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Outstanding. I see those hands lifted up with all those wrestling belts behind you, brother. But we're going to be talking about something that we wrestle with
Yeah.
on an often basis, and that is networking. And so we're going to discover or dive into some insights for leaders to build powerful connections. But before we get into that conversation, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, a little bit about me. I'm a Queens kid. I was born and raised in Queens, New York, and over the past 10 years, I've been in here in Linden, New Jersey, which is about 35, 40 minutes from Manhattan by train and about an hour by car. As you mentioned before, I am the president of Borja Consulting Group. I've had my organization for 5 years. I have over 20 years of experience in higher ed, um, and now in nonprofit and entrepreneurship and real estate. So one of my main clients is statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. And what I do with them is I'm their vice president of corporate and entrepreneurial programs. So what that means is anything from the sponsorship to grant opportunities to the curriculum to who speaks to the coaching aspect to reporting. I kind of oversee that entire process. They've been a client and I've been with them for 3 years. I also work for another nonprofit. I do a lot of their facilitation for a lot of talks around starting a business in New Jersey, digital marketing, social media, and I have about a dozen mentees that I mentor, and I've been with them for about 3 years as well. And lastly, I've invested a share in a hotel in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and looking to own something in Dominican Republic soon, and about to go in the contract, God willing, and something in Florida. So it's a little bit about me. Big Mets fan, unfortunately, and a big pro wrestling fan. Been to 20 WrestleManias. So you can call me Die Hard. And that's a little about me.
Now, we spoke earlier about the things that we wrestle with, one of them being networking. And it's often a challenge for leaders or professionals in general to get into a room full of people and start mingling, start to, what do I say? How do I answer when they say, what do you do? Hey, who are you? And those challenges plague us all. We all have to find a way to navigate that learning curve around networking. So what strategies have you found most effective for building professional networks?
Yeah, I think what's helped me over the past couple of years, is a couple of things before I get into the actual event. I think what has helped me is volunteerism, giving back. In my previous life, I volunteered for ASIS International. That's for folks in the security field when it comes to certifications, when it comes to networking. So definitely joining organizations like that. Of course, everything that I've done with Prosponica for the past 7 years on the volunteer side, I went from a VP of professional development to a treasurer to EVP, and then I was president. I'm no longer. I'm the immediate past president. So just that opportunity to network with folks nationally, and also thanks to that exposure with Prosponica, I was able to connect with the Hispanic Chamber, and the rest they say is history. Now to answer your question, coming back to it, yeah, I think a couple of things, and I went over this actually last week when I was discussing public speaking. One, it's being able to do your research prior to the event because a speed networking event is different from a networking event, right? A gala is different from a panel, right? So just knowing the type of event it is, knowing how to dress too, and three, being able to have your elevator pitch in place, right? Hi, my name is Dr. Jairo. I help I help people make double digit returns back by real estate. You don't say, yeah. What does it entail? And then I get into like a little bit more about those details. And I always say, always end with some type of call to action. Hey, I'm going to reach out to you next week. I'm going to set up some time via Zoom or in person for a virtual and or in person cup of coffee. coffee, something like that. And then I always also mention from my book, Networking is Success, cha-ching, cheap plug. I always discuss finding that commonality, right? Finding that common bond using, you probably heard of Form or G Forward. I call it Formea. I added a little bit flavor to it, right? So whether it's family, finding that commonality, right? Whether it's married or widowed, divorced, or kids, right? That's always an easy common thing. Where are you from? As far as like kind of how you and I started, right? You're from the Bronx. I'm from Queens, right? Yankee Met rivalry, right? Occupation, as far as some of the same things that same job or same industry. Recreation, some of the same things that maybe we may have in common. I like to work out. I used to play baseball growing up, played softball in my adult years, and I used to do jujitsu as well. So, I weight train. So, where's that recreation? I find that commonality there. Motivation, like what's your why? For me, it's all about leaving a legacy of wealth for my two daughters, and we wanted to retire a lot earlier than 65, right? So that's my motivation. And then education wise, finding that commonality when it comes to maybe going to the same school or knowing people from the same fraternity. And achievement could be certain milestones that we've hit, whether it's education wise, milestone wise as far as where we're at in our lives, and or milestones within our business. So yeah, I think once you have that, I think you're good to go. I always also say last piece, and I'll be quiet, is having a clock, an internal clock. I would say if you're at an event, if you're looking to speak to 10 or 15 people, no more than 3 to 5 minutes per person, because you don't want to stay stuck talking to one person and missing out on that opportunity to talk to others. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I hope that helps.
No, great tips, and surely some that I have implemented as I go through these venues and appearances at networking events, and a lot of them work. Now, it's good that you mentioned the 3 to 5 minute type of internal clock. A lot of people transition that internal clock at the event to forever.
Yeah.
And you can't just spend 3 to 5 minutes with people and actually get a good, solid relationship over time. So how do you maintain and nurture your professional relationships over time? Because the networking event is just the beginning. So it has to be nurtured.
Yeah, give those 3 to 5 minutes for just the event, and then just say, "Look, over a virtual cup of coffee, or a cup of coffee, or we'll talk more, right?" And then at the event, what I do is whether if it's on Zoom if it's virtual, it's a little bit easier because I can have my CRM side by side. So a couple of tips that I want to give after the event. It's also part of my course, ching my course, Transformative Success. So basically, what I do is after the networking event, what I do is I take the stack of business cards or kind of folks that I connect on LinkedIn, and what I do is I enter them in my CRM, customer relationship management software, and I enter notes. Hey, I met with Enrique. He's a Yankee fan. And he has two kids. As an example, right? And then when I meet with them, I say, hey, how's the Yankees going? I saw they won yesterday. Blah blah blah. Right? So it's find that commonality, and out the gate you kind of do that, right? And then of course with their permission, I would also take it a step further and add them to my email campaign, right? And by adding them to your email campaign, we'll be able to get your newsletters or any announcements for any events or anything that you have up and coming. So that's a little bit post the event, and then just over time, even if you add them to your email campaign, they may not talk to you for a month or two or three, but as long as they see you, you're not going to be out of sight, out of mind. They'll think about you. Hey, I know someone who I know you're having trouble with networking. I know just a guy, or I know just a gal, right? So it's all about nurturing and having those various touch points, right? What do they say? It usually takes what 7 touch points before making some type of initial contact. So it's always about finding different ways to kind of stay in touch with your prospect. So
Yeah, great tips there. And I'll add a couple of that I remember right off the
sure,
bat. As you was talking, I was like, yes, those are perfect to set up that CRM,
yeah,
that database where you take notes. LinkedIn does a good job, and
yeah,
most social media nowadays, if you are truthful about your birthday,
yeah,
they'll say, "Hey, Heido's birthday is today. Did you know
yeah,
that?" or whatever, and you're like, "Oh shoot, it is."
yeah,
So you could. I've done this myself. I've created a personal. video,
Yeah. I
15
got yours,
seconds.
so thank you for that. I
Yeah, all
appreciate
right, all right.
it. I got your
I
birthday video earlier
Yeah,
this year.
and so you create those because number 1, that's a separate thought. I mean, you think about it. Somebody had to take the time not only to acknowledge your birthday, but to take the time to create something personal for you, and that facilitates a relationship that is long lasting. Folks, we know that when it comes to business, sales, and things of that nature, folks buy from folks they trust, they believe in, they can confide on and so forth. So when you're talking about that long lasting relationship, it takes a little extra, right? I've seen people send little note cards. Hey, they happen to get their address, send them a book. Hey, I remember from our conversation this, hey, check this book out. You know, it doesn't take that much more effort, but it does take effort. So when we're talking about a networking, we've covered the initial piece, we covered now some relationship building, but a lot of people network because they need something,
Yeah,
right? They either need your resources or your time or your energy, right? So, can you share a specific example of how networking has directly impacted your career or business?
100%. I love this question, right? So as I mentioned earlier, so I volunteered for Postponica, right? It's been around for 30 years. Used to be in the Shimba. So thanks to that exposure, one, I got exposed to, um, P&L, profit and loss, statements and stuff on the financial side. And thanks to that experience of helping with events throughout the year or helping other sponsors, I was able to leverage those opportunities and exposure to connecting with, Carlos Medina. Shout out to Carlos Medina from the Hispanic Chamber here in New Jersey, right? So I was able to connect with him. I was able to have him on my show, and then next thing you know, an opportunity came for a director of grant and entrepreneurship. So I was able to somehow, they had a gap. The previous person had stepped down, and I came in and took over, and we're taking now the program to new heights, right? Adding different programs, having cutting edge speakers, and getting more grantors. So 100%, I think networking, and I've been networking with the chamber even prior to me doing my role. So to answer your question, yeah, network, leveraging those opportunities through volunteerism through Prospanica had connected me with the president, Carlos Medina, had him on the show, on my show, Dr. B show, and then eventually was able to come to an agreement and me take over as director of grants. So, and then as the rest they say is history. So you could say a combination of networking, connecting with Carlos for a long time, knowing him a long time, and then connecting with, through Prospanica and leveraging those opportunities and using, I was networking. That's 100%. That was all, all as a result of networking, of me networking.
And I've had similar, as a matter of fact, currently in a position with a company that came strictly by somebody being connected to me on LinkedIn and having had followed everything I've done. They made a decision to invite me to be in that position based off of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we met one time, and that was to discuss where he was headed.
Right.
So, folks, networking, connecting, following, participating on comments and posts,
Yeah.
all these things matter in the grand scheme of what networking is truly about. And so I ask folks to explore those and don't give up because you just don't get anywhere. Keep pushing that networking, that true relationship building activity wherever it is that you reside. I reside on LinkedIn. Most people go on Facebook. I don't know how that works, but
Right.
I know it works if you do it right.
Yep.
So, Heido, in your opinion, what role does networking play in career advancement? A lot of people are trying to get to the next level, and I'm working with somebody right now that's trying to get to the next level, and networking is one of those pieces. But how have you seen that play out in career advancement or in business growth?
Yeah, 100%. I think it helps out in career advancement because what you should be doing is doing your day to day, right? But also, volunteering for those. ERG, BRG groups, right? Getting exposure to other folks, being able to network internally. And what do they say? There's a book out there. I forget the title, right? What never, or there's a saying, never eat lunch alone, right? If you could just have once a day or once a week network or have lunch with someone in your organization, when it comes time to that promotion or consideration for other roles, they'll be like, oh look, I know Julanito, Joselito, who's doing the ERG, BRG volunteering, doing great things with with the ERG. Why not him, right? Or her, right? So I definitely think that on the career side. And on the entrepreneurship side, I know it's in the beginning it's very lonely, right? In the beginning, you are sales, marketing, finance, operations. But I do think by networking and joining various your local chamber of commerce as one, also joining industry specific organizations that are related to your field, whether it's security or financial services, that's definitely going to help play a role in networking your way to success. And in addition to that, I would say even to take it a step back, all the way back, right? Going back to basics when it comes to marketing 101. This is a shout out to my dear esteemed colleague from the chamber, Tatiana Orozco. She hammers this point home in regards to understanding your avatar, right? So understanding exactly who's your ideal customer, right? Like what's their age, how much they make, what's their marital status, where do they live, right? And then based off that, kind of think about, okay, what's some of their problems? What are some of their current challenges? How can you be that solution, right? Where do they get their information from? Like whether it's like you said, LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, right? And then how can you provide a solution to that problem, right? So once you have that clear understanding, then I think it'll be easier for you to go to events or stuff virtually or be introduced to those individuals and go where they're at, right? So that's definitely a good way for you to network in as an entrepreneur.
There was a practice that I remember coming across several years ago, and it was that so most cities have a business journal, right? Usually by a chamber, but, business type of thing. Here
Yeah.
in Orlando is the Orlando Business Journal. And I used to scour that in companies that I thought that I would be interested in working. And they would make announcements on there. And if I wanted to be part of a department, then I would look for department uh, announcements, and then I would send a little postcard to the company and their name and say, "Hey, congratulations on receiving that award. I saw it in the business journal. I'd be interested in talking to you about how you got that and things like that." And then you just made a connection. And believe me, folks, that handwritten note is still as powerful as it ever has been. And if I got into that position now, I already had kind of like a leg up on the relationship piece. So if you're internally, you're in there already, why not reach out and congratulate somebody within your organization in a special, meaningful way where you can build that rapport? Because later on, people remember,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
They remember the bad, but believe me, they remember, those that made them feel a certain kind of way in the positive side. So a great tips there, Heido. And
You're
I
welcome.
encourage everybody to consider those. Now when we're talking about um expanding your circle, right? Everybody has the people they know immediately, and they are trying to grow their influence, right? And this is the way where you can branch out, because not every company is there forever, right? So you have to be able to have your little doors
Yep.
kind of like open. So what advice would you give to someone looking to enhance their networking skills to expand those personal circles?
Yeah, I would say, great. I think it's great question. What I would say is, look, just because you're at a job, just because it's good, you never know, right? So I definitely highly recommend you joining an organization, joining like a local, the ERG, BRG in your organization, because this way, a couple of things. One, you'll acquire leadership skills that you may not be able to fill in that role. Two, you could be in a position where you're out of your comfort zone, and this way, you're not doing your day to day stuff. You're doing other things such as treasurer or event planning that it may not require to be with your job. And three, you're connecting with other folks throughout the organization in sales and marketing, operations, finance. And this way, when it comes time to that promotion or whatever, then at least they'll know you, right? But I definitely think what has helped me as far as expanding my network over the past 10, 15 years is just again is volunteerism. I actually have a whole talk around it where it's important for you to get that exposure with an Alpha or a SHIP or Plusmonica or National Black MBA because through there a couple things happen. Same thing. One, you'll have the opportunity to connect with like-minded folks. Two, if it's a national organization, you can connect with other chapters. Three, you'll be able to be out of your comfort zone and learn other things, right? So if you're a finance guy, go for something else, right? Because this way you'll learn other skills that normally you would not get in your day job or business. And four, you'll be able to join the national conferences or national events and connect with other folks in other chapters. So I think that's the advice I would give anyone who's currently in a role, whether it's in a role in organization or entrepreneurship, is to volunteerism and give back. Right? It's all about. I truly believe in the law of reciprocity. It's not just about what's in it for me, but how can I help others? That's why people come to me. Hey, I need this or I need that. I love being a resource for the community. Do I know about Windows? No, right? But do I know someone? I may know someone that can install it, right? So people, I love being a resource for the community. So that I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. And folks, also consider writing,
Yeah,
consider collaborating on a book. Hyder and I
yeah,
collaborated together on a book, and that's exactly how we actually met.
yeah,
And it was through that collaboration, unbeknownst to us, that we would end up doing a podcast together. But those were touch points, and those are that's another way you can actually show your worth in your field and also get together with other people that are showing their worth in their field, and then things explode from there. So consider that if you have not, and I would encourage that. Now, Jairo, you have mentioned your book, you mentioned a class that you have. So what do you have coming up? What about that book and that class, and how can the listener or viewer get a hold of you?
So I have a book, Networking Way to Success: 10 Tips for Entrepreneurs and Working Professionals. I've had it for 5 years. Even post pandemic, some great tips similar to, and it's a lot of the tips are what I mentioned earlier in regards to the elevator pitch, in regards to what to do in an event. So it's available now at Amazon or at networkingwaytosuccess.com. I also am looking into revamping my course. It's available now, Transforming Your Way to Success. It's an 8-week journey where it takes you from a networking novice to guru, and it's a lot of the tips that I mentioned here, but it's like 10x. So by the end, you'll have all the tools and resources to help scale your business. I highly recommend it. It's geared towards either the entrepreneur or business development professional who's stuck, who has no idea out of Adam how to really connect with your alumni association or put a list of people. So I kind of walk folks through it from all the way from the beginning all the way till the end. So I have that. And then we didn't mention much about the real estate stuff, but I do have a webinar coming up. It's on Tuesday, May 21st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It's Unlocking Wealth, the Passive Investor's Guide to Real Estate. It's a great opportunity for you to learn how to invest passively in real estate and not worry about a headache, not worry about being a tenant, but at the same time, making double-digit returns back by real estate. So for more information on that, you can just follow me on social media at Dr. Jairo Borja or Borja Consulting Group on LinkedIn or BorjaConsultingGroup.com.
Outstanding. Well, folks, we're going to have all that information as part of the video and the show notes so you can get a hold of the book, the master class, the services,
Yep,
all that
all
stuff.
of that. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So, folks, today's episode is sponsored by Fantail Services and Superpass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, the Outlier Project, and Duco. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment. Now, we're always looking for new ideas and guests that can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on a podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. And this podcast is brought to you by StreamYard, a browser based tool that lets you stream and record podcasts in studio quality. And we're using it to record this podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.